So as we start up our afternoon, we are going to turn the conversation back to you and the questions that you raised throughout the morning. I'm very lucky to have with me Atul, who's going to tackle these questions. So let's begin. The first is, how is your new model different from the present one?
Well, it's the same and different, what we call Opportunity 2.0, as we look to now going down to the very bottom of the economic pyramid to the extremely poor. What stays the same in the model is, of course, our focus on the poor. What stays the same is, at least going in initially, what we believe and have seen work with the poor across all these years is, okay, economic poverty needs an economic solution. Got to figure out how to get these folks to start to earn a living. Right? And there are two options to get them to earn a living. One, they start a micro business and teach a man to fish or teach a woman to fish, catch the fish, cook the fish, and then sell the fish. So that's what you saw with Linda yesterday. So that's one model. The other is train them to do jobs. So we provide those three things: financial services, training, and support. What's changing, and it's pretty rapid, the change, is in two aspects. It's largely in how these services are delivered to the poor. And the big change there is, one, instead of having wholly owned and operated institutions that we've had in the past in Africa, we are moving to the model that has been very successful for Opportunity in Asia, where we partner with existing institutions. So we are sort of a bank within a bank. So if you've been to a Bank of America branch, there's a Merrill Lynch, counter there, window there, desk there, but that's for the high end. Our model's the reverse. We have a desk for the very low end. To make sure then that the partners and us stay connected at a very close level, and it's not simply a business relationship, is we take our capital, the funds that you all donate, and we take equity positions in those partners, right? So we have significant equity positions in the partners. And then we provide we come in with three other models of input for those partners. Governance, we would be on the boards to make sure we stay true to our call and to the shared mandate. Technical expertise, based on our 47 years, what are the right products and services needed? Right, and then the support systems, make sure that, okay, and we might have our own staff. The fourth that I'll come back to as well is monitoring and evaluation. That we have to be accountable to both to our two principal stakeholders, the poor and our donors. Well, what do you guys, is it working? Show me. So how do we answer that question?
Our next question is, how does violence, abuse, and lack of healthy justice systems thwart the well-being of our clients in poor communities around the world?
So this question came, and some of you asked this. One, it definitely affects our clients. There's no question about it. The direct impact, and you're seeing it play out, if you heard DK earlier, even in Nicaragua as we speak, is that the people who have just about, if you will, stepped out of poverty, the probability that they will go back into the position they were in earlier because of violence and the lack of good justice systems is actually very high. So you see that in recent examples in Nicaragua. You see that in a historical context in a place like DR Congo, one of the most marginalized, hard to actually have long-term impact in that country. Things that get affected are human rights. Things get affected at a very, very deep level, land rights, right? I'll give you my short vignette, personal story. When my father passed away, for whatever reason, he decided that the ancestral property would go to the two sons, not to his wife. So my brother and I were having none of this. So we went to the municipal court in the city of Kanpur, where the property was, to register the land in her name. The court clerk refused to do that. He said, no, can't do. He said, you will have to do it. Because if it belongs to us, it's up to us to do what we believe is right. So it actually took not the clerk, but a court order to force him to do that. So that's what I mean by land rights is that, and this is remember, we are not a level 1 or a level 2 family anymore. So that reality is what gets played out across the economic spectrum in the developing world when it comes to land, where it's a very insidious form. Violence, and then inability of victims. So yeah, it definitely is present. We have to be conscious of it. We, however, believe that the very thing that opportunity goes in with and what you see in practice as the income levels improve, and specifically as the income level of the woman in the family improves and she becomes a independent, if you will, wage earner, the relationships start to change. And yesterday I mentioned a statistic. This was a study in Ghana. 89% of the women in the 3 provinces that we did the study in said that directly proportional to the increase in their earnings capacity was their ability to have decision rights at home. So those are the things, and when you start to now, Linda's comment, when you invest in a girl, you invest in a nation. As you start to do that more and more, you start to see stabilization happening in social systems.
Wonderful, thank you. The next question is, are Opportunity International's efforts in Latin America affected by some of the recent policies and viewpoints of the United States government?
Well, largely no. We are relatively, we are not an immigration organization. We are not a displacement organization, if you will. We are very much, our programs in Latin America are very much rooted in the local context, as they are everywhere. And you've seen our staff around the room here. You've traveled with us if you've been on inside trips. We are a local organization wherever we are. We are a local organization here in the US. We are a local organization across the border in Canada. In fact, Dale Patterson, our CEO and chair of the board, is here somewhere with his donors. By the way, I have to tell you this, the Canadian donors love Canadian staff very much. So Dale and I have a challenge if American donors can love American staff as much. So we are a local organization everywhere. Back to the question, we are. So in that context, our local work actually doesn't get very much affected. Where it can get affected, and has in the past, Cassie, is where U.S. government focus on where development assistance is flowing changes. So currently, well, actually for the near term, as you go back in the last 5 to 10 years, the U.S. government focus has not been in Latin America. So that has already impacted us long back. But otherwise, no.
Thank you. The last question I have is, what is Opportunity's unique role and value add? One is, I believe, our long history of innovation. That we've been, literally people who have wanted to go where nobody else wants to go. So when, families in Africa didn't have anywhere to save, we set up the first banks to save. When farmers struggled to purchase seed at the beginning of the seed season, you heard in the agricultural finance yesterday, and then again in Africa today, the workshop that we had, we stepped in to figure out how to get them loans and get them to buy seeds, and set up an entire sort of ecosystem. When things like natural disasters start to happen to families and they fall back into poverty, health disasters, well, they should have the same coverage as we have with insurance. We launched microinsurance, right? When there was no mobile banks, the first mobile banks were flatbed trucks with ATMs. So that inner desire, commitment, urge to go out and figure out new things. Education finance in the present, the last 5 to 10 years. Digital finance. Rosa is here, our head of digital finance. Well, if you asked her this question, what will she say? I know exactly what she'll say. She'll say, our focus is on high touch followed by high tech. We want to make sure that
The women who we work with around the world, 90+% illiterate, unskilled, they learn how to use mobile technology to one, get into to set up their bank accounts, but two, how to keep themselves protected, right? Those kind of things. That doesn't happen naturally. Somebody's got to step in and educate, just like we had to. My staff's still educating me on my smartphone. So you think about so that's the part that we play is of constant innovation and constant search for better answers. That's one. Two is, and I think to me at a very, very I call it an existential level of the organization. This organization stayed true to its founding mission for 47 years. That is not a light statement. We can look at our own lives and ask ourselves how many organizations, corporations we know that stayed true to the origin, to the founding mission. Our methods have changed, delivery has changed, people have changed, but we are very focused. Our job, we've expanded the job. One, help the poor get out of poverty by helping them build incomes, livelihoods. Two, the one thing we've added, let's get their children educated so they never get into poverty. And then, so that is I think at the existential level, that is a really, really, it's not simply a value added. It's a given in the ecosystem that we live in, is that opportunity is going to be doing this.
Thank you. So we're a little ahead of schedule, and I think we'll move into the next portion. If you have questions, continue to think of them. We will address them. If anyone has a super pressing question right now, raise your hand, and if not, we'll keep moving forward, and hopefully we'll have a little more time for a break this afternoon.